This little guy called Peep is definitely a boy. Nest has been neutered. Egg, on the other hand, gave her some difficulty, so Egg is now still intact.
Well.
Hello, welcome to a vlog that has a lot of things going on. If you have not watched the vlog before this one, where I went and rescued a bunch of mice, I definitely recommend going and watching that one first, but just to kind of summarise everything, I rescued a bunch of mice that were being given away on a selling site, 2 mums, 2 dads, and their 9 babies that then turned into 8 babies that were 9 days old. Their eyes weren't even open yet. Now they have grown up a little bit and the boys need to be separated from their sisters and the mums, and the dads are booked in to be neutered, so a whole lot of sorting these mice out to get everything the way that it should be. So it is already time to separate the male babies from the females and put them into their own separate cages. And the way I do this, I have had these babies since they were about 9 days old. So from about a week onwards, I will look at all of them and make a mental note or a note on my iPhone notes of which ones have nipples and which ones don't. And that's a rough way, when they don't have very much fur, to kind of get an inkling of which ones are going to be males or females. But at this age, it is a lot more apparent. You can tell the difference between them quite easily actually, which does surprise me that people can't sex their mice, because even at 4 weeks old, the males have quite obvious balls. So yeah, we're going to separate them. I always feel really sad doing this, but it's so necessary to make sure we don't end up with any more babies. So we've got the 2 mums, Snowdrop here and Daffodil, and they are quite obviously female, so they are going to go into the female carrier. You have got so fluffy, oh my goodness. So when it comes to sexing baby mice, a lot of people are tempted to very gently lift the base of their tail and have a look that way. The problem with that when it comes to males is that tends to make their balls kind of shrink and hide. So what I tend to do instead is, if they'll let me, hold them and kind of dangle them so that gravity does its thing, and that way you can very clearly see that they have got something going on down there. So this little guy called Peep is definitely a boy. That's quite obvious to me. So that is the first little boy, so he's going to go in there for now. And then I'm fairly sure there's only 2 other male babies, one of which is white, and as you can see there is a lot of white babies, so got to find him and then the other one, and then I'm fairly sure the rest are female, but I'm going to triple check. It can also be really helpful to use something to get a good look at your mice if they're very quick, and if they are a bit more nervous, they might retract their balls and hide them from you. So this here is B, and he is a male, but he's very quick. He likes to shoot up your shoulder when you're holding him, which is cute, but I need to get a good look at him, so I'm kind of using this to kind of tilt it and kind of get a good look. You can also use things like a measuring jug, a glass measuring jug, to have a look underneath them and get a good look at what you're working with. But yeah, B is definitely a boy. does also help when they're really mad that you've put them into carrier prison and they're doing things like this, because you can get a good look underneath them. Now, it's obviously not recommended to house adult intact male mice together, so these boys probably are going to be needed to be separated before they get neutered in a couple of months' time. Look how much mouse food I'm going through. They are going to need separated, so they're probably not going to stay in this temporary like step-up cage together very long. When that's going to be, I'm not sure, because the last time I did a rescue like this, the male mice started displaying aggression towards each other quite early on. I'm talking like 4 weeks old. They were starting to really pick on each other, so they did not stay together very long. I needed to put them into separate cages pretty early on, but it is very like line genetics dependent on when that's going to happen. So yeah, they're not going to be staying together in this cage probably very long at all, but if I can bide some time not having to have 1,000 cages and then being alone, then I'm going to. But yeah, just for now they are going to be bunking together and sharing this cage, but in a very short time I'm sure they are going to have to be separated for their own safety. So today is the day that 2 of the male mice are being neutered, the 2 dads, and I've just been setting up these hospital cages that are a lot smaller than what they're in. What they're in now is still temporary, but this is a lot smaller for a couple of reasons. This also has a certain type of bedding, paper-based pellets, which I don't usually recommend for mice, but the reason I use this after surgery is just like if I was to get a rat neutered, is this is a lot softer on their wounds. Things like shavings can be quite sharp when they've just had surgery. It's also a little bit easier to see if they are going to the toilet, if they're peeing and pooping after surgery, so I do put this into the carriers as well, just to make sure everything is functioning as it should be. And I keep this very basic just for the first couple of days of their recovery. It's also much easier to just access them if there's not much going on, to give them their pain medication in the first couple of days. If they were in a big main cage that's all set up with various different places to hide, that is going to be very difficult to give them their medication. So putting them into smaller cages, I've got this one which is kind of like a carrier, and then a very tiny cage they came with that I'm going to set up for them. The 2 males, that's going to be their hospital cages for the first couple of days, just keeping it very simple, just to make life easier and safer for them. So we are just waiting. We have got egg in this one, and then we've got nest in the one at the back. And then I have also got one of my own personal mice, Brooke. She has started sounding a little bit raspy in the past couple of days, so just thought while she's here she could have a look at her and maybe get her on some medication if it needs it. But yeah, gonna try and squeeze her in as well while she's here. I might as well. So yeah, a very mouse-filled day. doomed when it comes to trying to get male mice neutered. Things just never go to plan. I don't know if you remember the last time I did this, when I did a big mouse rescue. I had the male mice booked in, and I only just remember the actual like reasoning behind this, because this is all, it's all gone off again. Last time I had the male mice booked in to be neutered, they were supposed to be going to a local-ish vets that was still like 40 minutes away from me, but somebody had booked them in on a day the vets were actually closed. So a week before they were due to be neutered, I got a phone call basically saying they couldn't do them for another couple of months. So I didn't want them to wait that long, so we decided to drive them 3.5 hours all the way to use the vets that Bacchus Residence uses, stayed overnight in a hotel. Turns out that vet then had an emergency they had to do and couldn't neuter the mice that day, so we had to leave them there, drive home, and then drive all the way back again to pick them up a couple of weeks later. That was the drama the first time I tried to get male mice neutered. Yesterday was similar. My vet was actually on the way to me driving here in her van, and she had some issues pop up with the van which made us think she might not be able to even get here and do it. Luckily, she did have a very quick recovery service and was actually able to make it to us a couple of hours later, so they did end up going in to be neutered. It was not easy for her though. Nest has been neutered. He made it through the entire surgery and has successfully been neutered. Egg, on the other hand, gave her some difficulties. They both did really, which makes us think maybe it's a genetic issue, that they both just don't deal with anaesthetic very well. But Egg, she put him under to neuter him, and his heart rate dropped dramatically in the first like couple of minutes, and she was not comfortable carrying on trying to do this because, to be honest, I think he would have died if they'd carried on because it was dropping so low. So yeah, he has not been neutered, and honestly this was my first time having any sort of surgery done on my driveway. It was really odd just being in my house knowing that was being done like right there. Would have loved to have watched it, but obviously there was such a chaos with everything. And Egg has not been neutered, so it was taking a little bit longer than I was expecting. I was starting to kind of sit there and get a little bit worried. And I think I was so focused on the worry of either of them not making it through and passing away, because it can happen, it can be quite a serious surgery for such a small animal. I was so focused on that being a possibility that I didn't really think about what to do if one of them couldn't be neutered. So Egg is now still intact. We need to kind of figure out what to do with him. Also, she reckons they're a little bit older than maybe we were told they were. I was told all of the adult mice were around 5 months old, but Nest, when she was looking at him, he's actually got the start of cataracts in one or both of his eyes. I can't remember what she said, but yeah, she reckons they're maybe a bit older than we thought, which is maybe why they struggled as well. So who knows what is going on with them. So that has thrown a bit of a curveball. We kind of need to weigh up our options and figure out what to do with him. I really don't want him to live alone. That is like the last resort option. I know a lot of people do it, but for him I just want him to have company. So there's a couple of things we could possibly try. She did mention maybe putting an implant in him, which is not that common in mice. It's a lot more common in rats and dogs, the hormonal implant, for him to then maybe go ahead and live with neutered males instead of me keeping him, because he was one of the mice that I was going to keep, and I do obviously have some female mice, so not sure that I would fully trust with the implant, fully trust putting him with my females. So maybe he could have the implant. She's not personally done this on mice, but I have been doing a bit of research, and there is some people out there on forums and groups and things that have tried it with their male mice and it has worked and they've been okay with it. But yeah, I'm not sure I would trust that as like a contraceptive, as an alternative to neutering, to safely house him with females, but maybe he would be okay with neutered males. So yeah, a lot to think about. I've got until the next bunch of male mice go in to be neutered to kind of just figure out what to do with him. Bless him, because he is such a friendly, outgoing mouse. Compared to the other ones, he is always like staring at me through the bars, and I just want him to have company. So yeah, need to figure out what to do with poor Egg. But yeah, just glad that both of them are okay, because it can be a risk. It's a risk that I choose to do to give them a better life. But I'm just glad they're both okay and alive, because Nest also did struggle with the anaesthetic. His heart rate also did like a weird thing. They've both got weird things with their hearts. So yeah, he's okay, he's recovering. He's got like a little bit of stitching on his stomach, but I'm sure in a couple of days he's going to feel much better. In summary, Egg gets to keep his eggs for now. So I just thought I would show you all of the girls really quickly, because they've not really featured in this video. It has been quite a male mouse heavy vlog. They're all doing really well. They're catching up with their mums in size. I'm starting to have to do a double take, especially with the white mice, of which one is the mum and which ones are the babies, because they are just growing so quickly. And in a couple of weeks time, when they're 8 weeks old, they are going to be ready to go to their new homes. So growing super quick. The time is going so fast. I just can't believe how tiny they were when they came here, and now they are proper full size almost mice. It's just gone so quick. Well,